Hey, so welcome to the 5 steps to living a have it all life training with myself, Mainprize, and I'm going to be sharing with you how I replace stress, struggle, and sacrifice with freedom, flow, fun, and fulfillment to 5 times my income to feel deeply connected in my relationships whilst being in great shape too. Now, this training is going to open up a lot in your mind and it's going to evoke a lot of emotion and passion. So what I would suggest that you do is to remove any distractions, turn off your phone, Facebook, anything like that, grab a paper and some pens and maybe a coffee so that you can get the most out of this training, because you're going to find this training incredibly valuable to really realize and start to create a pathway to creating that life that you know you're capable of. So let's get started. So the keys to unlocking your kingdom, your have-it-all kingdom. There are 5 steps I'm going to be taking you through today. Now, the first one is the breaks: being, breakthrough, balance, and build. So let's get started with number 1, which is the breaks. Now, the breaks are the things which are the brakes are on your life. What's stopping you from getting to that life and that place that you really want to be, that you know you're capable of living? And generally, it's the subconscious blocks. And these are the stories that are ingrained inside of us that are holding you back from living the life you really want. Now, generally, these are going to come from your childhood conditioning, your parenting, the beliefs and values, and the examples that your parents showed you. Also, the things you were told as you were growing up, what you were too much of, what you were too little of. All these things become ingrained and create belief patterns about ourselves. And also it can be events in your life as well. So it could be through tragedy, failure, like a business failure or a painful relationship, that can create beliefs that can hold us back and stop us from being in our true power and creating that life that we want. So the conscious mind controls only around about 2 to 4% of actual perceptions and behavior. So we could say that this is a little bit like the keyboard on your computer. Whereas the unconscious mind controls 96 to 98% of perception and behavior. So this is the motherboard. It's underneath. We can't see it. It's internal within inside of us, but you can see that this is what is running the show for us and creating our reality. So your external world is a direct reflection of your internal world. The way you feel about yourself in the privacy of your own thoughts will show up in the quality of your relationships, the level of financial success you attain, and the amount of love, health, and vitality, laughter, and joy you will experience in your daily life. So I want to introduce you to something called the shadow personality. Now, this is incredibly interesting. Not only is it interesting, it is the key to unlocking the door to remove the brakes and the blocks on our life. Okay, and this is why this is the first part of the training. So, what is the shadow personality? Our shadow personality is made up of the parts of ourselves that we hide, we deny, we suppress, and we don't see in ourselves. And this can be both positive and negative things. Our shadow is all the aspects that we reject out of shame, fear, or disapproval. It's made up of any part of ourselves that we believe is unacceptable. And it might be met with disapproval by others, or things that horrify and disgust ourselves about other people and deep down about ourselves. And the psychologist, the pioneering work around the shadow, Carl Jung, he said, our shadow is the person we would rather not be. And the shadow wields enormous power over your life subconsciously. And from its invisible home deep within your psyche, the shadow wields enormous power. It determines what you can and cannot do, what you will be irresistibly drawn to, and what you will do almost anything to avoid. And it dictates our attractions and our repulsions, and it determines what we will love and what we will judge and criticize. The shadow controls how much success, love, joy, and abundance we will create, or how much failure we're doomed to experience. The shadow is the oracle that predicts all your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors, driving the way that we treat those around us, and just as importantly, how we treat ourselves. Now, people often want to run away from the shadows, and I was unconsciously being ran by this program that I wasn't really aware of for 20 years of my life. And it was only until I uncovered this that I was able to remove the blocks and start creating the life that I really knew I was capable of. So the shadow is what can trip you up, and it what causes you to self-sabotage. It can have you not go after the dreams, and it can have you stay stuck in fear. So if we want to radically reinvent our lives and be all that we can be and turn the tide on mediocrity, playing it safe and settling, then we must run towards the aspects of ourselves that we fear and have shame around instead of running away. It's only when you have the courage to face ourselves exactly as we are, right now, without any self-deception or illusion, that we will have the ability to give ourselves everything that we desire and deserve in our lives. So the shadow is really our friend. It's whispering, it's sometimes screaming to wake us up. It's inviting us to tell the truth and come out of denial. The shadow is really just a part of us that needs love, and a part of us that has been wounded, ignored, or denied. And for us to be the fullest expression of ourselves and to manifest all that we want in our outer world, it's vital to find the love and compassion for all of ourselves complete. The dark side, the light side, the selfishness, the selflessness, everything, so that we can really, really move forwards. Now, my life, I'll give you an example how the shadow impacted me. I didn't feel good enough, and during my childhood, my dad probably didn't feel good enough about himself, so he was very hard on himself, and he was also quite hard on me and very demanding. So very often little praise was given, and usually there was about 3 or 4 things that you could always do better. So, and I remember being on a football match with my dad, and I remember just craving that praise, that acceptance that I was good and worthy. And I remember coming off the match and thinking, wow, that was absolutely the best game I've ever played. I couldn't have played any better. And I remember saying to my dad how well I played, and then he said someone else he thought played better than I did. And that really just knocked me down, and again was one of the reasons why maybe I chose to not feel worthy enough. Now, my dad obviously didn't mean so much behind that, but these are the things that shape our shadow and our unconscious mind. So when I was a teenager as well, I was bullied a lot. Now, this was embarrassing. It caused me to go into depression. I felt really, really low, lonely, and isolated. And again, this was another reason why I didn't feel good enough about myself. So when I started in business, or before that, I'd sort of driven myself to be a martial arts champion. I had this ferocious amount of drive and would never give in. And that was part of my energy, but I also realised it was also part of me wanting to feel good enough and worthy enough. I went on to create the largest martial arts school in the United Kingdom. When I was 25, I was driving a Porsche 911. I had bought a big commercial warehouse for my massive martial arts school. These were all drivers where I couldn't relax. I was just working so hard, so focused, so committed, so driven. And the reason why was because I didn't feel good enough. And I was constantly running away from the fact that I didn't feel good enough and was trying to create an external world. And the problem with that is that although I created lots of success, every time I tried to get to the next level, I would literally bounce off it because this subconscious program was running the show. And it was only in the last sort of 2 or 3 years that I opened this up and have been able to release this feeling of not feeling good enough and absolutely start to create the life that I've really desired. And I was, through that period, I was just overworking like a maniac through fear. And it was all to create external things, success, material things, having a good physique, being successful, getting people's respect through external things, which was never going to make me feel good and feel worthy enough inside until I accepted that. So what are your stories? What are the stories from your life that are holding you back? What are the memories of your childhood? What was your childhood like? And are any of the events of the past affecting your present? Could it be a relationship that's caused you a lot of pain, that's stopping you from creating the relationship that you want? Could it be something else? So here's step 2, which is being. Now, being is living in our head or our heart. Often if we're doing, we're in our head, and if we're being, we're being in our heart. And our head is the ego. This is the false reality. This is, and a lot of my life, none of us were taught this, but I literally had to unlearn that, and this can be quite alien for a while, is that your thoughts are not you. The thoughts are just thoughts, and we don't really have a lot of control over our thoughts. And for most of my life, I attached to the thoughts, whether they were good or bad, and I believed that they were me. And through my learning, I realized that our thoughts are not us, they're just thoughts. And what's contained within our heart is the real truth of who you are. And really, when you're in your head, you're not fully engaged in the present. You're either thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future. And really, all we have is the now. And a lot of life is boring. It's boring. But it's finding joy through those mundane things. And if you're fully present and you're in that moment, then that's where you find the joy, even in the simple things like making a drink, cleaning up, whatever it can be. You'll find joy if you're in that present moment. Suffering occurs when you don't accept your reality, when your idea in your head of how reality should be compared to how it is. That's when the suffering and the conflict occurs, through our thoughts. And I often found that with me, it was often, I've got to have X and then I will be happy. So focused on getting to this place within my business, when I get to that place, then I can start doing all these other things and then I'm going to be happy. Like a lot of people do. Or if I had a bigger house, if I earned more money, if I did this, then I'll start to be happy. That's what creates the unhappiness. That's what stops us from being fully in our hearts and not feeling the joy. So you can't be both unhappy and in the present moment. So this just tells us the power and the effect that our thoughts have on us. You cannot be both unhappy and in the present moment. And I lived in my head for a lot of my life, choosing to buy into negative thoughts, things that I would think about myself, that I would latch onto those thoughts and create them bigger in our head. And you've all heard the phrase that thoughts become things, and that is absolutely true. And I was often trying to work everything out in my head. What ifs were coming up. I'd try and anticipate whether this would work, whether it wouldn't, until I created anxiety, overwhelm, just by being in my head way too much, instead of actually being and feeling. And I was often on edge, not fully able to enjoy things, because my mind was often in the future. It was either worrying about something, on edge, and it was often in the future about getting to a destination. And if all you're doing is focus on that destination, you can never enjoy the journey, because your mind's in the future, it's not on the present. And we can only be happy if we're in that present moment. And the mind will try and protect you, like the shadow. It will try and pull you back in, and you'll get the what ifs, which will hold you back. If you're in your head, you'll compare yourself to others, and also you'll start to settle, and your vision and your reality of what your life is can shrink. So it's important, and a lot of men, what they do is they mask pain through sedation. When they start to settle and they start to give up on their dreams and goals, and they tend to do that by trying to make themselves feel better with external things. And usually sedation comes through two things. Hiding from reality will either come through boredom or burnout. You're bored because you haven't got that purpose, that fulfillment, those goals that you want to go after, you're believing in them, or also you've worked way too hard and you sicken yourself off with the stress and you're burnt out. So you start to settle with smaller goals, and what you use is you try and distract yourself and sedate with porn, social media, drugs, alcohol, women to escape, to try and make yourself feel better from the reality that you've created. Mine was often, especially when my life fell apart, I was often trying to make myself feel better, generally through buying stuff, buying clothes, buying things, to try and just make myself feel better. So how can we be in our hearts so that we can be fully all that we can be in life, in our true power, in our true essence of who we are? And our heart is our intuition. This is our true guide as to who we are. The intuition, it's not we have to think things, we just feel it, and we have that sense of knowing when we open up to this as to who you are in your fullest truth and your power. Who you are is who you are, and when you're in your heart, it cannot be denied. And your feeling is your compass. It's not the thoughts in your head as to how things are going. It's that feeling. How you feel is your compass. So, what activities get you out of your head? And if you think about people, whether it's someone going to the cinema to go and see something on the big screen, people could wait a couple of months and could see it in the comfort of their own home with their own cinema surround and everything. Concerts, whatever it is. People pay lots of money to get out of their head and into a state of being, into their heart, into that flow where everything is natural and you've got that natural essence going on. So, what activities could you be getting involved in more of, and what gets you out of your head and into your heart and into your natural state of being? Is it walking in nature? For me, meditation is important for me, and also yoga is perfect. I always do a couple of yoga classes a week, because if I don't, I feel completely different. That is one of my core things that I have to do, because it gets me into my body, it gets me into my flow, it gets me into my heart, into my breathing, and I'm really able to recharge and switch off and empty my mind for that period. Altered states as well. A lot of CEOs, top people, they're into the Silicon Valleys, etc. A lot of those people are into things like extreme sports and creating altered states which get them out of their heads. Music. I get a lot of energy from live music. In fact, I'm going to a gig tonight because I find when I go to a gig, I'm completely in my heart. I get in a state if it's a really good gig, and that energy can travel inside of me for weeks, sometimes even months. And sports as well. I enjoy playing tennis. I don't know what you do, but think about what gets you out of your head and into your heart. And I remember when I was teaching martial arts, and then I sold my schools. I was able to keep the commercial premises, so I went online and had one of the world's biggest martial arts instructor membership websites. But the problem with that is I went from teaching, and I'm an extrovert, so I need that external energy. I have a lot of energy. I love talking, connecting with people face to face. I literally went from that to being sat in front of a computer with very little human interaction. Now that wasn't perfect for me, and it took me into my head, and that was where problems really occurred for me. things became heavy and created anxiety for me. So step 3 is breakthrough. And when we're able to remove the brakes, the blocks, the things that are holding us back, we're able to being a being state rather than a doing state, and we're living through our hearts, not through our heads. This creates a state of feeling good. When we feel good, we're able to create breakthrough. So I'm obsessed with creating a state of flow. When everything literally just feels right, when everything effortlessly comes to you, things seem easy. We can all think of those periods when things have just happened without us forcing, without us fighting, without us having to work hard, and they've just effortlessly come to us. Things are all aligned, and everything just feels right and very easy and natural. So this is where we want to be. We want to be removing the stress, struggle, and sacrifice, where I lived for over 20 years of my life, and replacing it with effortless ease, flow, and peace. So there are 2 states of being. There is getting and there is receiving. Now, getting means you've got to go out and get something. It means struggle. It means fighting. It means pushing. It means fear. Now, I lived a lot of my life in this phase here. Like I explained and shared with you before, a lot of that was through not feeling good enough. So I could never relax. My mind was constantly in that fight mode of fear, lack, and scarcity of going to get what I wanted, because I couldn't relax and believe it would come. I had to always be taking action. Now, takes your energy away. And you will know the more you resist and you tense up, the harder it is from that. If you take a boxer or a martial artist, which I've been for 30 years of my life, if you tense your arms up and you throw a punch, your arm is locked. It's never going to be as fast and as flowing. Whereas if you relax it and release the tension, you can be so much faster, you have so much energy, and it's so much more flowing and easy. So state number 2 is the receiving. This is where we are in a state of allowing. We need to cultivate a state of knowing, of trusting, and when we feel good enough, when we create this state of abundance, we can open up, and the universe, which the universe wants us to win and is there ready for us to win, will bring those things to us in our life. From the last 20 years of my life, I can absolutely say that being in the fight and hustle mode literally just made everything difficult, a struggle, hard. And what tends to happen is, when you're in that hustle mode, burnout tends to lead to feast and famine. So what you'll find is that things never last. You can go out there, you can smash 100 grand for 3 months or whatever, but then for the next 6 months, you're burnt out. You can't create very little then. So you find yourself in that hamster wheel of a little bit like, if you like, approaching a marathon, and you approach the marathon like a sprinter. You want to get there as quick as possible. So when you've completed that marathon as fast as possible, you're just too shattered. You've taken too much out of yourself to be able to do another marathon the next month and the next month and the next month. So this whole state of being in that getting mode is what creates the burnout. So we want to be moving away from that. And I was always in that hustle mode, which led to burnout. And when you're in burnout, it leads to, you feel it. I felt exhausted, felt lonely, I felt isolated. I stopped having fun because I was constantly emptying the well. And you just literally cannot function like that if you're not looking after yourself and recharging. So how do you feel when you're in full flow? Think about the feelings when things are effortless, they're easy. There's not that fight there. You're in that state of allowing, that knowing, that trusting, that flowing. So think about this. What activities get you into creating more states of flow? And if you think about this, a lot of CEOs And I read a really interesting book called Stealing Fire not long ago. And what they talked about in there was about altered states and about creating flow. And if you think about the reasons people spend millions trying to get out of their heads and into their hearts to create a different state of being. So, for example, let's say people go to the cinema when really they could wait a couple of months, watch it in the comfort of their own home with good quality speakers and everything, but people pay to go to the cinema. And they want that experience which is taking them out of their head and into their heart, which is creating an altered state. That's what this state of flow is. And a lot of CEOs, they're involved in Silicon Valley CEOs. A lot of those people are involved in extreme sports and other different things which create altered states and allow them to tap into this state of flow. And the Navy SEALs, a lot of them tend to be trained in meditation by Buddhist monks. They're trained in different martial arts. And again, using your body to get into a state of flow is another very powerful way. So think about what activities get you into creating more states of flow. What things can you be doing weekly, monthly, yearly? It could be that festival. It could be different things. It could be a weekly, like me, live music is one of mine. Playing tennis is another one that gets me in that state of flow. Being with friends is another one. So what gets you out of your head and into your heart and into this state of abundance, this state of feeling good where we're releasing that mantra, that belief that life has to be hard, life has to be... Remember when in the early 90s when the personal development, the Anthony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, I remember all those stories about those people that had come absolute incredible adversities and their perseverance, monster perseverance. And what that taught us was that we must push through everything. And the problem with that message then was it was all about success at all costs. So we were sacrificing ourselves too much because the message was all about push through, win, overcome. And really, life doesn't... Although we do need perseverance, we don't need to sacrifice ourselves at all costs, because that is not sustainable. So what we want to be doing is fostering these states of flow and feeling good and looking after ourselves. So step number 4 is balance. Now, what humans crave the most is deep connections and love. So we can't ignore these because these really are the fuel to life. So when I was consumed, the problem when you're in business, it can be so all-consuming that relationships and family can tend to feel like an obstacle. And generally it's not that like me, I never intended it to be that way. It was just that I was so consumed and wanting to get to that place, then I would look at those things. But of course, I was so busy in my business, those things never came, and I was never able to create that time because I was always so busy trying to get somewhere. So it's important that we allow relationships to allow them to have the time rather than viewing them as an obstacle. Because your partner, if you have a partner, chose you because you were fun, because you were your personality, not because you were successful and those things. So it's important, don't, like I did, we don't want to get locked into that unbalance and not looking after ourselves and our relationships. And relationships came last and business was first. So my mindset was when I have, then I can be. So when I have this, when I earn that amount of money, when I get to that destination, then I can start to enjoy myself a little bit more. And of course, that destination never came because you were constantly emptying the well and burning out. What we want to be doing is we want to be, so then we can have. When we be, we're in a state that we can maintain and we feel good. Things will come to us naturally. And I never created room for anything else. I wasn't having fun. And what you invest in grows. What doesn't dies. So if you are not taking care of your relationship with your wife, your date nights and your other things and your quality of time, then If you're not paying attention, like if you don't pay attention to your business, that's going to struggle, that's going to die. So we have to invest and create time. And for me, it's absolutely essential that I schedule those things in. Otherwise, they don't get done. And again, I'm in that state of that have to be, not be to have. So when I'm scheduling in my quiz night with my friends, when I've got my date night, those things are all scheduled in. So what we want to be doing is making deposits to our relationships, not withdrawals. When we're in that hustle mode, we're tense, we're probably agitated, you're going to be angry with your kids, you're going to be angry with your partner. And again, that's creating withdrawals. So that's not feeding and investing in those relationships. So we want to get out of that because it's going to make you, stress leads to feeling lonely, tired and isolated. And I developed anxiety. I would, really bad points, I would feel very self-conscious. I wouldn't want to go to parties, events and functions because I was often stuck in my head and I really didn't feel like it at all. So here's another question as well. So how do you refuel yourself? Like a top athlete, they train, they get massage. Everything is about being able to perform when they need to be able to perform on a consistent basis. So you're the same and we need to think of ourselves like that. So how do you refuel yourselves? How do you have fun? What gives you that fulfillment, that feeling that you have that energy and you can create those flows? So some questions for you. Are you making deposits to your relationships? Think about that right now. Are you causing them to die and making withdrawals, or are you creating deposits in them? How are you refueling yourself daily, weekly? Is there a massage happening? What's going on so that the best version of you can show up in the world? That's really, really important. So step number 5 is build. We've created a great foundation. We've got the breaks, the being, the breakthrough, and the balance. So here we are now, and this is how do we actually actualize, create, and produce that life when we've got ourselves in the state of being. So we do it through a daily system of consistent production, a series of simple wins that build confidence. And I was often trying to land the big knockout, putting yourself under pressure, working 100 miles an hour to earn that 100 grand over those 3 months, launch that successful internet-based product, and then after that, tired out for 1 month or 2 months and didn't have the desire to do anything. So it's very important that this is taking the reins off and is a different way, but this is far more effective. So this is how we create the have-it-all life that we want. Not living an either-or life. And in the past, I could maybe mean 2 things. I could maybe have a successful business. I could be in shape, but I could never maintain the business and the successful relationships and that state of being as well, of being present and enjoying things. So pushing hard and fast for results, massive results, is at the cost of what? And why? Because we're here to enjoy the journey. And in the areas, like you said, I could maintain 2 things, but maintaining 4 and having that have it all life, I could never maintain until the last few years of my life. So the 4 areas are your body. And we need a body. The body is either going to become the vehicle or it's going to become the obstacle. We need energy to fuel our lives. And if we're going to create that have it all life, to achieve in our business, to show up for our children, for our partner, to not be so tired, to not do things, to not have fun. Our body is important. We need health to function well. And the being is that spirituality, that inner peace, that place of being present. And the balance is the relationships, taking care of ourselves, relationship with ourselves, taking care of our relationship with others. And the business is the thing that's going to be able to give us the freedom and the choices that we want to be able to have. So the 4 areas of life. So remember this, we don't want to live that either or life. So if your business is strong but your balance is weak. Your business is strong but your body is weak. Your body is strong but your business is weak. Spirituality is strong but you're not making any money. And very few people live that have-it-all life, that all-encompassing life. Most people are either 1 or 2-dimensional. So to create synergy, to fuel your life, we want to be thinking about not just our business, we want to have that balance. So remember, your body and its lack of energy is going to affect your business, your ability to produce, the energy. You're not going to have a great sex life because you haven't got the energy, and you haven't got the energy to have fun and be present with people. And similarly, if your balance and your lack of fun affects your business, because you're not going to feel recharged, you're not going to feel that love and that connectivity, which is going to be able to help you to produce consistently. So when I was in my mind, often, I'd be reactive, I'd be taking action, generally too much action, but I wasn't always conscious about what I was doing and being very critical. Often I couldn't remember what I achieved in the last 10 years, never mind last week. So what tends to happen is when you're living that way is what comes to the forefront of your mind is not the 3 things that you've just done, but that negative thing. And that can be very damaging, sapping to your motivation. It leads you to being critical, judgmental. So we want to protect and grow our confidence and build momentum in every single day of your life. The phrase inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard. I always used to teach my martial arts students that, and very rarely did I apply it to my own life because mine was not about inch by inch. It was taking a hammer and smashing my way through everything to get there as fast as possible. So this is a different approach. It's not as sexy, it's not as glamorous, but this is a sustainable way and a much more effective way of being as a person if we want to have that create that have-it-all life. So here's what you can start by doing. Create 3 wins each day. And those wins could be as small, let's say if you're suffering with depression or anxiety. One of those wins might just simply be to get dressed, to go to the gym, to go move or go for a coffee with a friend rather than be stuck at home feeling bad and down. So it could be anything, but the main thing is create 3 wins a day. So at the end of the day, if you've ticked those off, to build that confidence and that momentum, we start small and we build that power, is 3 wins. So imagine at the end of the week, if you've created 21 wins, how good are you going to feel? And you're focusing on your wins by having those written down rather than just focusing on that negative thing that comes up and then becomes at the forefront of your mind. So this is building strategic confidence. One of the wins must bring in the money. So one of the wins, we don't want to be just busy, we want to be productive. We want to be doing activities that are the highest payoff tasks that move the needle of your business. So one of those 3 activities, one of those 3 wins has to be a pound sign. So that is going to ensure consistently on a daily basis that you are literally going to be moving forwards with your sales, your marketing, the activities which are really going to make a difference to bringing in that money. And what I would recommend that you do is I would recommend that you meditate. You can meditate for 3-4 minutes. There are good apps like Headspace. There are free apps. There is YouTube. You can meditate. Then as soon as you've meditated and you've got that little bit of clarity in your mind, then write the 3 things down that you're going to do for the day and go after those. So you've got that plan, that little bit of a plan for the day, which is going to be crucial for you. So we've had the breaks, we've had the being, we've had the breakthrough, we've had the balance, and then we've just had the build. This is how we build a fuck yes life, with you in full flow and you showing up in all your power. So let me ask you, You already have a good idea of this, but what is your vision for your life? What is that vision? What are you really desiring deep down that's in your heart? Without thinking about it too much, just what naturally is coming to mind. And sure, in my business, success is important, but I also want to play football with my son in the afternoon. I want to be in the best shape of my life. I want to be the dad I want to be. And I want to live a full and complete life. So you're watching this today for a reason. Something in your life isn't perfect and you're desiring more. You know that you're capable of a lot more in your life. So you know where you are and you probably know where you want to go. And that is a great place to be. And I hope this training has really helped you spark that fire to really create that will and that commitment and that motivation to move your life forwards. To moving it away from no more stress, struggle, sacrifice and darkness. And this is why I created the Have It All way, because this has changed my life. 4 years ago, I was nearly in prison. My marriage ended. I was served with bankruptcy notice. I had anxiety. I was on medication. I was absolutely struggling. What scared me to death at that time was that this was it. I was going to be stuck in this constant fight, struggle, survival mode forever. That's what scared me to death. And that pain and the fear of that pain is what really drove me to take action and move away from the stress, struggle, sacrifice and darkness and move into the freedom, the flow, the feeling of fulfillment, fun and the light. So this is why I created the Have It All way. And through all my journey, through all the investments of all the different training seminars, empowerments, everything, instead of just being on one, I've been on lots and I've put the best of the best materials together. What has absolutely transformed my life and turned it around. Now I'm sharing it and I feel so empowered and passionate to help other men that are in pain to move away from that and really create that life where they can smile, where there's colour, where there's light. So if you're ready and you're committed to change, I'm not talking about those guys that like the idea of change and then 2 minutes give up. I'm talking about the people who are absolutely at a point where enough is enough. They want more and they are absolutely ready to go balls deep in creating change, shifts, and moving to that point of transformation so that the vision that they've got becomes a reality. That's what I do. That's what I help people achieve. If that's you, click the link and book your clarity call now. I hope you've enjoyed this training and taken something from it. Please share it with other men as well, because that's my mission, is to change people's lives, remove the pain and help everybody to really achieve that fuck yes life.